God, some people are dumb. Welcome. How are you doing today? Bro, I'm not trying to be the fucking true crime police, but oh my god, if these motherfuckers would quit giving me reasons to be annoyed, we wouldn't be here for episode 4 of True Crime Coverage and Discussion. That bothers me. Not only do I have a whole page of notes, I have a note on my notes. Okay, goodness gracious, let's go. I saw someone comment on a recent murder case. And this person said, oh my god, you all need to repent, you all need Jesus, because nowadays nobody's serving the Lord, and these kids these days have no kind of respect or decency because they're committing murders. And without Christ, there's nothing to deter them. Murder is illegal. Is that not a deterrent? I was looking into a different case about an elderly woman who had gone missing. People were very critical of her family for referring to her, the missing woman, in past tense after only 2 weeks, as though like her family were somehow all involved with her disappearance. This woman had a medical condition, and she would not be able to survive more than a week without her medication, and her medication was left at home. So after 2 weeks, it was logical and reasonable for her family to assume, well, shit, man, we don't know where she is, and she doesn't have her meds, and without her meds, she dies. There were people who were like, it's fucking suspicious. Like, nah, dude, it's not. It's really not. It's not unreasonable to just accept the fact that, yeah, shit, we don't know where they are, but they did not fucking make it. Ugh. Terrible. Rest in peace. Okay. This is something that maybe I got a little too bothered by, but I think it's bullshit, so we're going to talk about it. There are, to my knowledge, 4 different subreddits dedicated to discussing the Moscow, Idaho quadruple murder case. 4 different subreddits. Why? Because fuck you, that's why. We're not going to talk about how I got all 4 of my own accounts suspended for ban evading in one of those subreddits. What we're going to talk about is, I got an alert on my phone that there had been a new post in one of these subreddits. And the post was an update about a civil suit in the Gabby Petito case. And I saw a couple of people comment going, you're in the wrong subreddit, different crime. Why is this here? And I think the OP was a little annoyed by that, because I think they really did feel like that was an appropriate place for them to post that. So I'm going to tell you exactly the fuck why it shouldn't have been posted there. Firstly, different murder case altogether. The Moscow, Idaho murders subreddit is dedicated to a very specific case. It is not true crime discussion. There's a different subreddit for that. It is not Gabby Petito. There's a different subreddit for that. We are all here because of this one specific murder case, right? So posting a different murder case here, it doesn't belong here. Secondly, if you're unfamiliar, Gabby Petito was murdered by her boyfriend. He ran across the country after he killed her, and then he committed suicide. So there's no justice to be had when the motherfucker who killed the girl is deceased, right? You can't prosecute a dead guy. So, because this is very upsetting, naturally, for Gabby's family, they have filed a civil suit against Brian Laundrie's parents, and their lawyer, and also the police, from the jurisdiction in which Gabby was murdered. But see, the thing is that is a civil suit. It's not even like pertaining to a crime. It's a civil suit. So, posting an update about a civil suit that is related to a murder case that is completely different in nature to the one we're here in this specific subreddit to discuss, that's stupid. Another thing in that vein that does bother me is that people, okay, I know we all have gaps in our knowledge, and I'm not gonna come for anybody on whether they are formally educated or not, but I feel like there's a certain point in all of our lives where we become responsible for educating ourselves. I don't think that that's unreasonable for me to expect that people try to educate themselves just a little bit. Because, I mean, if you look, education is free. Information is just out there. So people just don't know the difference between criminal and civil law. They just don't. They just don't. They don't know at all. And recently, there's a YouTuber who's notoriously terrible and awful. However, grooming and abusing are not crimes, right? So, as terrible as this man is, his name's Onision. Did I have to even tell you? I guess I did. He's being sued. And just about every fucking buddy who's discussing this civil suit, and the YouTubers who have covered this civil suit are saying that, like, he's fucking going to prison and there's gonna be justice served. I'm sorry, no. And it is irresponsible for YouTubers to be putting this out there. I know. Maybe they're trying to, like, clickbait, but, like, they are lying to and misleading their audience. None of them are actually saying, hey, so this is a civil suit. I've read over the documents, I have, and the suit is flimsy. It's going to get dismissed. And, oh yeah, even if it was a good civil suit, people don't get sued to jail. If you didn't know that, now you do. High five. All right, speaking of clickbaiting with horrible YouTubers getting sued to prison. Someone who is baiting on their YouTube channel is Annie Elise. Her channel is called 10 to Life. I mentioned her in my last video about true crime coverage that's getting on my nerves. Annie, I don't know if she's always been this terrible or if the sleaziness has increased as her subscriber count has climbed. But the girl is just regurgitating bullshit, nonsense, not even theories, hypotheses that are completely unfounded. And she's asking her audience, do you think XYZ completely ridiculous bullshit could be true? Let me know in the comments. She's engagement baiting. She's not gonna read your comments. She doesn't give a fuck what you think. She doesn't care. She's putting out sensationalized stories regardless of whether anything is, like, realistic or true. And she's doing this because the more people start commenting on her videos, that is engagement. It pushes her videos up in the algorithm, and she makes more money that way. And, like, I don't have a problem with people earning a living. I have a problem with dishonesty. Because, like, I don't like being lied to. Do you like being lied to? I don't think people like being lied to. I don't want to be tricked. And I don't want to be bullshitted. And I especially do not want to have my intelligence insulted. I'm not that dumb. I was smart enough to figure out how to hang this shit in front of my window. Brilliant, I know. Another YouTuber who has covered this Bryan Kohberger Idaho murders case is Swoop. Oh no, I've talked about Swoop before and how she does things that bother me. But the thing is, previously I've complained that she calls her videos docs. They're not docs. And what she's done now is she's made about an hour-long video that she calls a doc about the Idaho murders and Bryan Kohberger. And the thing is, like, I don't know how you make a documentary about a case that hasn't even gone to trial. You don't. You don't. That's not a documentary. Nothing she's ever done is a documentary, but it's just silly. And if she does think, Swoop, if she does think that she's making a doc, she's extremely unprofessional about it.
Don't do the criming, people. Stop it. Just don't.
Not only has she, like, not interviewed anybody, this is not how, she doesn't know how documentaries work, apparently.
The f***ing audacity.
But she's shady as hell, which, like, if this was a regular video that she didn't try to call a doc, I wouldn't mind. This guy's suspected of murdering 4 people. So, like, shade him all day long, girl. Fuck that guy. But if you're going to say this is a doc and you're going to act like it's comprehensive information, but then when she's talking about Bryan and how she finds him just suspicious, she'll be like, innocent until proven guilty. Bryan!
Innocent until proven otherwise. Innocent until proven otherwise. I'm gonna keep telling myself that. But I don't like him. Bryan. Sorry. I don't like Bryan at all.
Bryan!
Bryan! Bryan! Come on, Bryan!
She just starts yelling his name, which would be funny if she wasn't trying to play it off like it was a fucking documentary. She also perpetuated this false narrative regarding Brian's public defender and saying it's a conflict of interest because his public defender has previously been a public defender for other people related to the victims. It's like, girl, how many fucking people do you think live in Idaho? How many fucking people do you think are public defenders in Idaho?
Brian, Brian, come on, Brian.
It's like there's like 20,000 people in the entire county where these four victims were murdered. So like, yeah, if their relatives got any kind of low-level charge, that goes to the public defender's office. How many fucking people do you think they got there? Again, educate oneself, right? There are some great law tubers out there who are like fucking licensed practicing attorneys. And they sit on YouTube and tell you everything for free. So like, girl, Swoop, you're not making a fucking documentary. You haven't even listened to the actual attorneys. Get a grip. While we're still talking about fucking Bryan Kohberger and the Moscow, Idaho quadruple murderers. Ooh, God, some people are dumb. Like, and I'm not talking about you. Like, I know that I sound dumb all the time. So, like, if you sound dumb, that doesn't mean that you are dumb. Sometimes people just look and sound dumb because what they are doing and saying is dumb. That doesn't mean they're dumb as a person. But the suspect in the Moscow, Idaho murders was a criminal justice major. And one of his professors had, like, written a biography about BTK. He was a murderer. And a loser. And when I say he was a loser, I mean, like, he was a dog catcher. What an asshole. So, because this guy, Bryan Kohberger, was a criminal justice student, and one of his professors had some interactions in the past with the BTK killer, people have started calling Brian BCK because it's like BTK. And they think that Brian wanted to be like BTK because, oh my god, BCK and BTK. Girl, let me tell you something. BCK stands for Bryan Christopher Kohberger. That is his name that was given to him by his parents. BTK's name is Dennis Rader. BTK stands for Bind, Torture, Kill, which is a name that Dennis gave himself when he was taunting the neighborhood and law enforcement by, like, writing them letters because he wanted the fucking attention. So he was like, call me Bind, Torture, Kill. And so they were like, all right, Dennis, we'll call you Bind, Torture, Kill, I guess. So, like, no, I have no respect for that fucking man, and I'm not gonna call him this stupid little nickname that he wants to be called. The motherfucker's name is Dennis! Dennis? I'm not calling you BTK. So, okay, one guy's initials and another guy's, like, made-up name that he gave himself. Dissimilar. In regards to the Idaho murders, everybody keeps saying that, like, there's no way the surviving roommates didn't hear screaming. And, like, I don't know if you've ever had somebody come at you with a knife, but, like, you don't want to yell and shriek at someone who's already ready to injure you. You don't want to exacerbate the situation at hand. Like, if someone came into the room right now with a knife, I wouldn't go, ah! I think I'd probably just go. And also, like, okay, if you're already getting stabbed, right, effectively, it's kind of like getting the wind knocked out of you. There's not a lot of screaming to be done at that point. It's actually pretty quiet. So, all of these people thinking that all four of these victims who were stabbed in this house should have just been screaming their fucking heads off. Ah! It's just not realistic. Let's get on to my post-it note. Alright, so I saw some articles posted about the Moscow, Idaho murders suspect, Bryan Kohberger, and his public defender. Oh my god, they love to hate that woman, don't they? I wonder what it would be like if his public defender was a man. We'll never know. But I saw an article about how his public defender is going to be paid $200 an hour on the taxpayer's dime. I don't know if you know this, But the entire criminal justice system runs on the taxpayer's dime. I don't know, like, who else would be funding that?
Brian.
That's also more than affordable for a criminal defense attorney if he had hired private counsel.
Oh, come on, Brian.
And I want to say something about his public defender. Her name is Ann Taylor. She is a death penalty certified attorney, and she left private practice where she was making significantly more money to become a public defender, taking that pay cut willingly because she believes in the fucking system and she believes that everybody has a right to a good defense. So, like, I got nothing but fucking respect for that woman. She deserves our taxpayer dollars. Oh, goodness. Okay, this next note that I have, I'm afraid to talk about because I don't want to get attacked. Because anytime people point this out, they get dogpiled. But here we go. So, with the Moscow, Idaho murders, the family of one of the victims has jumped in front of every camera they can possibly get on, been loud, made it all about themselves, and have spoken about it as though their daughter is more dead than the other 3 victims. And I didn't like the way that they were doing that. But everybody is like, don't tell people how to grieve. And it's like, well, I'm not telling them anything. I'm telling you what I think about what they're doing.
Brian.
And people have like hung on every word the father of this victim has said and like taken it as fucking truth and gospel. And like, I'm sorry, it's just not accurate or trustworthy information coming from this man. I'm not trying to act like I wouldn't be doing the same shit, acting a fool, creating a spectacle if I was in his position. I'm just telling you what his behavior looks like. From the outside, looking at the motherfucker, he looks like an asshole. So, the family of Kaylee Goncalves, rest in peace, sweet girl. Oh my goodness, poor thing. Her father, Steve Goncalves, has been very vocal, shouting at the media, yelling about how the police aren't doing anything. They caught the murderer within like 7 weeks. So like, it's not like the case was like dismissed, ignored, or unsolved. Like they were on point with that one. Law enforcement. They made a big deal about how Kaylee worked really hard for everything she had. And she had just bought a Range Rover right before she was murdered. And then after Kaylee was murdered, her family started a GoFundMe to pay off the Range Rover. And they don't need to keep it. If they can't afford to keep it, you don't keep it. You don't raise public funds to pay for somebody else's car that you don't need to keep.
Brian, Brian, come on, Brian.
Am I crazy? The Goncalves family created a Facebook page, and they are posting wish lists for their surviving children who like weren't murdered. I don't understand that. I don't understand why they think that strangers from the public should be buying them items from their wish lists. That doesn't make sense to me. It does seem a little bit to me as though they're enjoying this attention and they are benefiting from it and milking it for all it's worth. And again, people are going to tell me, don't tell them how to grieve. And I'm not telling them how to grieve. I'm telling them not to grift, because it does seem like they're fucking grifting. Because in that Facebook group, they have also posted photos of gifts that they've been receiving. Oh my God, they're accepting gifts from strangers, randos, who just feel bad, like, oh my gosh, this poor family, like their daughter was murdered, right? And they're posting photos, like people are sending them boxes full of like fancy cheeses and like Omaha Steakhouse steaks, and they're posting photos of these gifts that they're receiving in the mail, being like, oh my God, thank you so much. Okay, they don't need that. They don't need you to send them a box of fucking cheese and Omaha steaks. They just don't. They also, the Goncalves family has also created merch.
Brian, Brian, come on!
They designed hoodies that have like a little design and the initials of the 4 victims printed on them. I've seen a couple people ask like, oh cool, so like where are the proceeds from the sales of these hoodies going to? That is an excellent question. I'll tell you where they're going. The profits from the sales of these hoodies are going to the family. The family is keeping the money. They're profiting off the deaths of 4 young people. If I were the parents or family members of any of the other 3 victims, I would be furious. That is some distasteful shit. All right, now the last thing I have on my notes that I would like to talk about today before I let you go, even though I know you really enjoyed spending time with me and my leaves. So there's a woman in the UK who went missing, and this has been a very sensationalized and widely covered missing persons case, which I find fascinating because this woman was 45 years old. And typically, nobody gives a fuck about a missing 45-year-old. They just don't. So it is great to see that she's received the amount of coverage that she has. However, people quickly became very critical of law enforcement and the way that they were handling the case. They thought that law enforcement fucked up from the jump. And finally, after I think 2 weeks of the search and investigation, law enforcement released to the public that this missing woman, Nicola Bulley. I didn't realize that was going to be hard for me to say. Nicola Bulley?
Brian.
Anyway, she went missing near a body of water, right? So law enforcement did a press conference where they divulged that she was going through menopause and that was fucking with her mental health. And like, I've never been through menopause, but I have been pregnant twice. And like, oh my God, that shit fucked my head up bad. Hormones are a motherfucker, especially if you've already got like a mental health condition to begin with. It amplifies it exponentially. So she was going through menopause, and it also like she was an alcoholic, right? So Nicola Bulley went missing near a body of water. And when an intoxicated person goes missing near water, they tend to be in the water. And once law enforcement came out with those details, like, listen, she was really struggling with her mental and physical health, and she also like had a substance abuse thing going on, everybody freaked out. And they were like, oh my God, how could they say that about her? They've slandered her. They've smeared her name. Even if she's still alive, she surely can't return home now that everybody knows this about her. I'm sorry, what? These are not uncommon things. Every fucking woman goes through menopause if she lives long enough to get there. And substance abuse disorder is not uncommon. It is a mental health disorder. Like, it's not a shameful thing that people should be like afraid to go home to their family now that people know that like they've struggled with substance use. So I think it's weird that people are saying like, oh my God, why would y'all say that about her? And it's like, I've seen people say that like, why would they even divulge these details? Nobody needed to know that. And it's like, it is pertinent. If a person goes missing, it's not unreasonable to clarify like they're at high risk because they have dementia, or like they have diabetes, or they have any sort of health condition that could be a factor in what happened to them. If substance use disorder is something that like you or anyone you know has, that's not shameful. Like, it's nobody's fault that they have a mental disorder.
Brian.
So those are just the things that I've been frustrated with lately when I've seen true crime coverage and discussion, and I figured we'd talk about it. So what do you think? Are there any aspects of true crime coverage and discussion that irk your nerves? Anything you've seen that you've gone, huh? Or have you seen some like good takes where you've been like, huh, that's an interesting point. Tell me about it. And also, while we're still here, I want to recommend Pat Brown's book, The Profiler. She's an excellent YouTuber and a brilliant criminal profiler. I have 2 of her books that were gifts from my best friend Sarsbeth, who I'm going to also link her channel in the description. So listen, y'all need to go watch Pat Brown. Y'all need to go watch my best friend Sarsbeth. And I want to thank you for listening. I feel like forgiveness is very important, so I want you to forgive yourself for the time that you have wasted watching this video. And have a good day.
Brian, what do you, Brian? Come on, Brian. What do you, Brian? Come on, Brian.